Good afternoon and welcome to our Q3 pharmacy webinar. I hope everyone's summer has been going well. We are going to give it a couple minutes or so to let people join in before we kick off. So feel free to grab yourself a water or a coffee if you need it, and we will get things started real shortly. In the meantime, I'm going to drop a fun question into our Q&A chat to get everyone familiar with this feature. Would love to hear about your summer travel plans. Chris or Morgan, are you going anywhere fun for the summer?
I am going on my honeymoon. I guess it will be fall by then, but I am
Exciting.
going to Germany, Switzerland, and Italy. So lots of planning is occurring during these next few months. Mm-hmm.
What about you, Chris?
I can't compete with that. I can't compete. I'm packing the car with 4 kids, and we're going to a beach in Delaware in August.
Oh, that's nice.
Yeah.
Oh, we got a Wildwood, New Jersey, the Adirondacks, plenty of travels to be had. Very nice. Well, thank you, everyone. We will get things kicked off now. Thank you for joining us this afternoon. We have a great webinar prepared for you on the specialty drug trend and solutions. I am your host, Kristen Wuckelchuk, and I am a marketing manager on the pharmacy team. Today, I am joined by our speakers, Morgan McCarthy, who is a board-certified pharmacist and one of our clinical account consultant pharmacists on the team, as well as Chris Karaz, who is one of our pharmacy consultants. As a reminder, if you have any questions during the presentation, please feel free to put them in the Q&A that I will be monitoring. We won't be answering any questions during the presentation, but we'll leave some time at the end to answer anything that does come through. So with that, thank you again for joining, and I will now be turning it over to Morgan.
Yeah, thank you, Kristen, for that introduction. And again, just want to say thank you to everybody that takes time out of their busy schedule to join us for our second pharmacy webinar with Chris and I to talk about specialty trends and solutions. Brief agenda, I will be talking about the specialty landscape and trends that we are keeping an eye on, take a look at the pipeline in the trending categories, and then I will pass it over to Chris to discuss the integrated medical and pharmacy solutions available to help optimize the spend in this category. We'll finish with some key considerations and then again leave time at the end for any questions. So first, before we dive in, did just want to reiterate our mission and vision at Excellus BlueCross BlueShield. So our mission to help people in our communities live healthier and more secure lives through access to high quality, affordable healthcare, and vision to be recognized and valued as the community and business resource for healthcare security through financial strength, effective cost control, ease of use, and commitment to health improvement. So we will dive in now to the certain specialty trends and just take a look at the landscape overall. So I don't think specialty is unfamiliar to anybody on this call. It does contribute a significant amount of spend and has been trending year over year for our groups, both on the pharmacy and medical benefit. So we all know that these specialty drug claims make up a very small percentage of overall utilizations, but end up accounting for roughly 50% of the total spend. So when we look at the trends that are on our radar, 3 of these are contributing to an increase of spend. Just last year in 2023, the average list price of a drug was over $300,000. Now that's up $70,000 from the previous year and can be attributed mainly to the approval of drugs in categories such as gene therapy, new cancer drugs, and then looking at drugs in the rare and orphan disease category. When we look at gene therapy, it is predicted that within the next few years, the FDA will be approving anywhere from 10 to 20 of these products each year. So this has really exploded over the last few years, and it's expected that the spend will rise over $25 billion within the next few years. Cancer, again, is another trending area. We see new types of cancer being diagnosed and more people getting a cancer diagnosis each year, which really leads to an increased attention in the pharmaceutical space to develop new treatment options and really get down to targeted therapies, which can lead to increase in costs for these medications. As far as the orphan drugs and the rare diseases, a huge chunk of these drugs have annual costs over $100,000. Is expected by the end of this year that these types of prescriptions, types of drugs will account for over $240 billion in the total drug spend. When we look at the opposite end of the spectrum, talk about biosimilars, which really induce competition and help bring drug costs down. We have seen a significant amount of approvals over the last 5 years. Just last year, we did have multiple biosimilars to the world #1 drug, Humira, launch. And then nearly half of the top 25 specialty drugs will have a biosimilar equivalent in the next 5 to 10 years. So we'll do a little bit of a deeper dive into each of these categories. But to start it off with biosimilars, just a refresher, biosimilars are biologic products that are highly similar and have no clinically meaningful differences from an already approved FDA product known as a reference drug or innovator product. So these are essentially a generic product of those complex biologic medications. The first biosimilar was approved in the US back in 2015, and since then, we've had over 50 additional products for 17 different innovator drugs available. You could see from the chart that 2024 is a record year already. We've seen 12 biosimilar approvals just within the first half, so that surpasses even the full year in 2019 when there were 10 products approved. And although, we have 57 products or biosimilars approved, not all of these products have launched. So a lot of the times there might be patent litigation with the reference products that needs to be worked out before some of these products can come to market. So these are super important to support coming into the market because, again, they increase that competition and offer increased access and affordability. A lot of these biosimilars can come in anywhere from 15% lower to 85% lower from those innovator products. So really offer great choice and additional affordability there. When we look at the different categories where a biosimilar is available, you can see some of these trending topics again. So there are several products in the cancer space. Those 3 drugs have multiple biosimilars for each product and have been around for several years now. So we've seen a lot of the market shift off that innovator product onto one of the biosimilars. Another huge space that contributes trend is with inflammatory conditions. So Remicade was the first inflammatory drug to have biosimilars come to market. Again, has been around for several years now. So we do see a lot of shift to the biosimilar products. 2023 and 2024 was a big year for inflammatory conditions. Like I mentioned, Humira had all the biosimilars come to market last year, and now Stelara, the next drug expected to make the biggest splash with these biosimilars, has 3 products currently approved. These will not launch until 2025, again, due to the patents, but there are currently 3 products that will, launch on 1/1/25, and then we'll see the rest throughout the year. So something to keep in mind, and that looking forward, we'll have strategies around that. This year also brought biosimilars in newer categories. So now we have a drug in the MS space with a biosimilar, looking at rare blood disorders. Solaris just got a biosimilar approved. And now in the eye disorder, so macular degeneration, we have an additional drug, Eylea, that will have multiple biosimilars. Looking forward and in the pipeline, there are an additional 4 drugs in the inflammatory space that are expected to have biosimilars. This is in the next 5 to 10 years. So again, inducing that competition there. And it wouldn't be a pharmacy trend webinar if we didn't somehow loop in the GLP-1s. So Trulicity is the only GLP-1 that will have to take this pathway to get a biosimilar. A lot of the other GLP-1s are on the more traditional drugs, so they will have the generics available. But Trulicity is expected to have a biosimilar in 2027. And then the other products, Ozempic, Mounjaro, will not have those traditional generics until after 2032. There are several different rapid-acting insulins that are in the pipeline for biosimilars in the near future. And then when we look in the cancer space, these are highly utilized immunotherapies. I think Keytruda and Opdivo are a lot of the time some of those top drugs that we see on the medical benefit when we look at our outpatient utilization. So important to note that these 2 drugs will have a biosimilar by 2028. Speaking of cancer, this is another one of our trends that we are monitoring. So 2024 is set to be the first year with over 2 million cancer diagnoses. So we're seeing more and more people that are getting a cancer diagnosis, using one of these high-cost drugs, increasing the spend for our groups. This space has a lot of research and development dedicated to it. So over a third of the total biopharma research is dedicated all to oncology. When you look at the timeline, I mean, over the last 10 years, there have been 120 novel oncology drug approvals, which is insane. We don't see any other category have that type of approvals in that short of time, which is great. It offers innovative treatment for our members, but also can pose some financial challenges to our clients. So just last year, there were 13 drug approvals, some for rare cancers or some for different tumors that didn't have treatments before. So we saw new treatments for mantle cell lymphoma, some rare nasopharyngeal carcinomas, additional treatments for large B-cell lymphoma, and then for those desmoid tumors now have an additional treatment. In 2024, there is set to have an additional 17 drug approvals. So these drugs, there already have been 5 new oncology drug approvals in the first half of this year. You can see that some of these drugs are covered under the medical benefit, some are covered under the pharmacy benefit. So it doesn't just affect, the medical versus the pharmacy. We really have to look at our strategies overall when evaluating these drugs and evaluating solutions that are available. Some of these drugs have received response letters from the FDA, just meaning that they need to fix something with their manufacturing. They may have found some issues either with safety or efficacy, but they would need to iron out those issues before receiving FDA approval. So these are the 17 drugs slated to have their medications reviewed in 2024. Now, just because they are set to be reviewed in 2024, I will caveat that doesn't mean they will necessarily gain the FDA approval, but did just want to show that, there are additional drugs coming to market in this space. Now, looking at rare diseases and orphan drugs and gene therapy, we can kind of, think of all of these in one category. A lot of the gene therapies are being studied for rare diseases, but just a specific type of therapy. So first, we'll look at what is a rare disease. So a disease or condition that affects less than 200,000 people in the U.S. So there are over 7,000 documented rare diseases. So about 1 in every 10 Americans live with a rare disease. Now that's over 30 million people. So even though these diseases are rare, with so many of them, you might get a group that has 1 or 2 of these people in their population, and a lot of the times they are a high cost claimant. The medication or drug they're on will hit for one of those high cost therapies. So good to know that this is a expanding space. New drugs are coming to market, again at record pace. So even just last year, 51% of the new drug approvals did receive an orphan drug designation. So again, offers innovative treatments. We got first time treatments for conditions like Chapel disease, Rett disease, Frederica's ataxia, but again, they come with that hefty price tag. So of the most expensive drugs in this space are these gene therapies. So gene therapies are innovative treatments that work by replacing, inactivating, or introducing new genes to help the body treat and potentially cure these diseases. So they are currently being studied and developed for rare, complex, inherited or genetic diseases. So we currently have gene therapies approved for diseases like spinal muscular atrophy or SMA, a type of genetic blindness, hemophilia, both A and B, and various types of cancer. So, we've also seen gene therapies come for sickle cell. So although these products do come with $1 million price tag, a lot of the conditions that they are used to treat either have therapies available now that are very expensive and require continued therapy year over year. So let's take hemophilia, for example. A hemophiliac would need to receive a factor for treatment, which depending on the severity of disease can range anywhere from $100,000 to close to $1 million each year. So if they received a gene therapy, you have to evaluate what would be more cost effective in that scenario. Looking forward for these gene therapies and orphan drugs, again, this right now is being studied for super rare conditions, but the development of treatment can lead to drugs for more common disease states as well. I think I was evaluating the pipeline. There was a drug in there for diabetic neuropathy, so something that greater portion of the population experiences. So in 2023, we did see 5 new gene therapies approved, and an additional 5 could potentially be approved this year. So we've already seen 2 gene approvals in Q1. So Lenmaldi surpassed for the most expensive drug to date. It has a list price of $4.25 million. So again, having strategies around this, making sure that the right patient gets the right drug at the right time is super important when we're evaluating these gene therapies. And then technology advancements obviously have enabled the targeting of these rare diseases and will continue to play a key role with the growth and development of these orphan drugs. Cancer and the rare diseases continue to be the top indications for these types of therapies. But like I said, it can move into more common disease states. In 2024, it is predicted that an additional 12 drugs will be approved and receive that orphan drug indication. So we've talked about the 4 trending areas, new drugs coming to market, new biosimilars, which create a lot of competition in the pipeline from that aspect. But we also want to look at what the drugs that are already approved and what they're doing to get expanded indications. So when we get expanded indications, we get increased utilization, and that can, drive up the spend as well. So we just listed out 3 of the drugs that have really expanded their use over the last few years. So Rinvoq was first approved in 2019, used to treat rheumatoid arthritis as the original indication, and then the last 5 years has already added 5 additional inflammatory indications and is studying 2 additional ones. So again, this inflammatory space is again a top 3, top 5 trend for our groups, and when we add indications here, it does create the competition with some of the other biologic products, but then you get more and more people on these expensive specialty drugs. Again, with Keytruda, so this has really been a breakthrough drug when we talk about treating oncology, but it was first approved in 2014 for melanoma. It now is approved for 17 different cancers at varying stages of those cancers. There are over 100 active trials involving Keytruda. So this may be, studying it for new cancers such as pancreatic cancer or ovarian cancer, or really studying it at different places in therapy. So it may, be second or third line for some indications, and then if there's a study that proves it could be used first line, it kind of can take over conventional, less expensive chemo options, and again, drive up costs there. And again, semaglutide, not a specialty medication, but thought I would include that here. So first approved in 2017 as Ozempic for the treatment of type 2 diabetes. We now have Wegovy, was approved in 2021 for the treatment of weight management. They've also got a risk reduction of major cardiac events, approval for label expansion on Wegovy. But there is a lot of activity looking into GLP-1s and utilizing them in several indications. This list is not all encompassing. I think it would probably take up 3 slides if I listed out all of the indications, but some of the big ones, looking at it in certain liver diseases, kidney disease, sleep apnea, heart failure, and Alzheimer's. So again, keeping a super close eye on the pipeline and the studies that are coming out with these GLP-1s to make sure, that the data is there and that these drugs would be medically necessary. And with that, I will pass it over to Chris to go over some of the solutions we have for these medications.
Okay, took myself off mute. Kristen, Morgan, can you hear me?
We can.
Make sure that worked before I just start rambling. Okay, Morgan, thank you. So Morgan covered, what the landscape is looking like and some of the new trends. And now I'm going to spend some time kind of connecting the dots on what programs we have in place to address these trends for our mutual customers. And I know many of the people on the call work with different lines of business, different funding. So I'm going to do my best to call out what funding arrangements these programs apply to. So just starting right off with the backbone of strategies to kind of address these trends is our utilization management programs. So these will be included for all fully insured groups and optional for other funding arrangements. So in the simplest terms, you heard Morgan use this phrase, but what we're attempting to do with these programs is to determine, is this the right drug for the right member at the right time? So all of these high costing new specialty medications that Morgan mentioned will have some type of utilization management apply. So with prior authorization, our clinical pharmacists and physicians review the medication requests to make sure that the choice of drug or dose is appropriately prescribed based on FDA and manufacturer guidelines and clinical standards. And then with step therapy, we have edits in place for many of these drugs where utilization is managed through a series of steps. So meaning certain medications are not covered until one or more equivalent drug is tried first. And then lastly on this slide with quantity limits, It's essentially exactly what it sounds like. We have system edits in place that limit quantities to be sure prescriptions are in line with FDA-approved dosage guidelines. Another important part of our strategy is biosimilar optimization, and this applies to all funding arrangements for groups that have pharmacy benefits with us. Morgan spent some time talking about biosimilars, and biosimilars are absolutely an important tool in advancing healthcare quality, outcomes, affordability, but they do require careful evaluation and consideration as partners in the healthcare space. And when it comes to biosimilars, we're diligent in evaluating them across the spectrums of drug safety, member and provider impact, cost, and also manufacturer supply chain considerations. And so we're committed to healthcare improvement and managing costs while assuring there's no compromise in quality or outcomes for our members. So the main goal of this program is to assure we're providing access to biosimilars in order to introduce competition into the marketplace, while also making sure we do it in a way that does not compromise overall health outcomes. And so essentially the end result in what we have is that we have preferred products in each category where a biosimilar is available. And we've done this in a way that helps manage these costs for our employers while not sacrificing a member's quality of care. Specialty drug benefit optimization. So this will apply to all commercial group customers. And this is a significant benefit of having pharmacy and medical benefits integrated because what we're doing essentially is optimizing what benefit the drug claim process is under. So some of these specialty drugs that we're discussing, they could potentially process under medical or drug benefits. And we have a team of clinical pharmacists that continually reviews a list of drugs and claims data that have potential to provide savings if they're moved from the pharmacy over to the medical benefit. And the goal of the program is to drive affordability and cost savings by reducing spend for specialty drugs that can be converted from the medical benefit to the pharmacy benefit at a lower net cost. The goal is we look to find scenarios where your employer groups are saving, and then the member also has an equal or lower copay with no disruption and done all behind the scenes. This is a program that is for fully insured groups only, so our medication assurance program. Morgan had spoke about, the pace at which these new specialty drugs are coming to market and how many are in the pipeline. And some of these drugs do come to the market through the FDA accelerated approval process. And with accelerated approval, it can leave plan sponsors and employer groups covering drugs that have not been fully clinically proven to be effective. And we've seen examples where accelerated approval drugs are covered for a number of years, only to be pulled from the market later because they did not show a clinical benefit. And with medication assurance, we are monitoring these accelerated approval drugs for the ones that agreed to participate in the program and hold the manufacturers to a financial guarantee that their drug will meet the program requirements. If a manufacturer does not agree to participate in the program, their accelerated approval drug will not be covered for groups taking the medication assurance program. So what this does is this helps provide an option for our self-funded employer groups to hold these manufacturers accountable that accelerated approval drugs will eventually be proven to be clinically effective. With cancer treatments being one of the largest trend drivers in specialty drugs, we began a consultative partnership with OncoHealth. So this will apply to all commercial group customers who have pharmacy benefits with us. And OncoHealth is most likely something behind the scenes that you as our broker partners or employer groups may not be aware that we are doing. But essentially, we've recognized how complex cancer treatments are and how quickly the costs of a member's treatment can escalate once they're diagnosed with cancer. And what OncoHealth is OncoHealth is a team of oncologists and board-certified oncology pharmacists that provide consultative services on drugs used to treat cancer. So now our members have their regimens reviewed by an oncology specialist, and our employer groups have greater confidence that approved treatments are medically necessary and appropriate. And then on the provider side, this also allows for peer-to-peer interactions between the member's oncology provider and an oncology specialist on our side as well. And in the end, this has advanced our provider partnerships by providing that connection. Some of these specialty medications that we have been talking about, they can be administered at different sites of care. So that could be in a hospital-based infusion center, a doctor's office, or in the member's home through home IV infusion. And there can also be scenarios where a member is receiving an IV formulation of a drug that also has a self-injectable formulation. And with site of care, with our site of care program, the goal of this is to monitor our group's claims and look for opportunities to transition these members to the lowest costing setting. So this can generate significant savings for our employer group customers while also offering a more convenient solution for the member. And we wanted to make sure to call out that there are some new updates to our site of care program. Many of you may have seen this in a recent broker blast, but in the coming months, we'll be rolling out a required version of the site of care program. The current program is considered a voluntary program. So meaning that if there is a lower costing option available to the member, it is required that they use the lower costing option. All of our insured business will be enrolled in the required version program as of January 1st, with our claims-based billing groups having this as an option. Smart RX Assist. This is one of our newest programs that just became available for self-funded groups on July 1st. So far, it's been very well received. This does only apply to copay-based or hybrid-based plans. So this is a program that can provide significant savings on medical specialty drugs. So these are specialty drugs that process under the medical benefit, which are typically administered as an IV infusion in an outpatient facility. And these are drugs often treating cancers and rare diseases that are some of the costliest treatments impacting our employer group's medical spend. So essentially what Smart RX Assist does is that it identifies manufacturer assistance dollars in the marketplace for these drugs, and it allows employers to share in those funds. And the best part of this program is that it is all done in a way that provides no disruption to the member and completely eliminates their copay responsibility. And then the last program I'm going to go over today is our Save On program. This is only available to self-funded groups. So similar to Smart RX Assist, Save On is a program that takes manufacturer assistance dollars and allows employers to share in those savings, but this is only for drugs that process under the pharmacy benefit. As you can see on the slide here, our self-funded employer groups have seen significant savings by participating in this program. In 2023, almost $15 million in savings for our commercial employer groups. And many of the drug names you heard on the first part of this presentation that Morgan was walking through will fall under the Save On program. So this is absolutely an effective way for our self-funded employers to manage these cost trends. We do also have a version of this program available that is HSA compliant for high deductible health plans, and that version is called Save On Adapt. Okay, so before I pass this back to Morgan to close this out, I just wanted to acknowledge that we have many other solutions and options available for our employer groups. And by no means was this intended as kind of a detailed dive into all of these programs, just kind of a high level overview for the time that we have today. And if you would like more details or want to review what programs or strategies are the best fit for your employer groups, you can absolutely reach out to your group's assigned sales consultant. And with that, I will pass it over to Morgan.
Yeah, thanks, Chris. So again, just to wrap it up with some key takeaways, the specialty landscape continues to evolve. We see new drug approvals, seems like every week, every month, and advancements in care do provide those innovative treatment options for our members, but will continue to present some financial challenges for our clients. We wanted to reiterate that we are here to partner with you on these innovative strategies to help best manage costs and provide the best access and quality of care for our members. So again, like Chris said, if you have any additional questions on any of the programs, on any of the trends that we covered, the sales consultants can definitely answer those program related questions. If you have questions on the trends, you can reach out to me specifically. But we, again, just want to continue to be good partners and provide any additional education that we can around this space. We all know that the pharmacy space, changes rapidly. So just want to keep everybody informed and up to date on what's going on. And then with
Thank you.
that,
Yeah, thank you so much, Morgan and Chris, for sharing all your insight and being here with us today. This moves us into our questions portion of the webinar, and we did get a couple questions in where you're both speaking. So Morgan, I'm going to pass this first one to you. Someone is asking the strategy around Humira biosimilar and if it will remain on the formulary for 2025.
Yeah, that is a great question, and I think something that we've been getting from a lot of the brokers when we go out and present with groups or with them specifically. So we've seen some of the other PBMs, like CVS, has taken the strategy of removing Humira from their formulary and preferring some of the biosimilars that their own manufacturing company are making. But in 2025, Humira will continue to be preferred along with the two preferred biosimilars that we have. So we have Siltezo and Hadlima on all of our formularies that are in the same preferred position.
Thank you, Morgan. And then the second question that came through, Chris, I'll give you this one. Will some of the self-funded programs be available to fully insured groups in the future?
Okay, yes, good question. And it's tough because you hear that these programs available for self-funded customers, and a lot of people ask, I want that for my fully insured customer. And probably the biggest ones that we talked about here are the copay assistance programs. So that being Smart RX Assist or Save On. Unfortunately, with current New York State regulations, specifically New York State accumulator laws, it really limits the value they can provide for insured business and the value of adding them for our insured business. So essentially with those programs, under the current legislative landscape, unfortunately, it's not something we see being able to offer for fully insured groups. Essentially, anytime in this presentation, if you heard it's something that we're offering only for self-funded groups, it's not because we don't want to offer it to fully insured groups. It's typically always going to be due to regulatory restrictions.
Thank you, Chris. That was helpful. And then our final question, I can take this one. Will we be sending these slides out? So as part of our wrap up, this webinar will be going out today to everyone, so you can rewatch, send it to coworkers who maybe couldn't join. But that concludes our webinar for today. So thank you everyone for joining, and I hope you have a great rest of your weekend. And as Morgan and Chris stated, if you have any questions after this, please feel free to reach out to your account rep. Thank you.
Thank you.
Hi, everyone. Thanks.